Alright, this video is on the theories of democratic government. You're responsible for knowing 4 of them and knowing them well and in detail. And really the essential question that we're covering in these theories is who really governs in the United States or in a democratic government. So our first theory is majoritarianism, and it's the ideal of how a democratic government is supposed to be run and who's ruling. It's the idea that government ought to do what the majority of the people want. If everybody's voting, majority rules. That's how it should work, that's how it's planned. But the reason why all these other theories came up was because people said, is that really how it works? When you have a voter turnout of 36% of all the eligible voters, is that really majority rule, or is that just the group that wants to be a part of voting ruling? So there's other ideas that were instilled. So we have majoritarianism. The second theory is called elitism. And this is the idea that society is ruled by a small number of people who exercise power to further their self-interest. So basically there's a small group ruling. And there's been lots of theories about this played out in history. Hamilton, one of the founders, he felt that a small group should rule, that his wealthy, educated group, yes, they were elite, but they were the most knowledgeable. They should be the ones in charge. And if you read the Constitution, especially the original things that before it was amended, you'll see that theme throughout, that we don't trust the masses. We want to make sure that people are making good decisions. And so he had this elite group. For the most part, he didn't get his way all the time, but ruling. Later on, we have Karl Marx, who wrote about the elites who were the capitalists, the rich or the upper class, and that they were harming the lower class, and that they should not be allowed to be in charge, but that yet they were. That's called the class view. And then in modern times, we have a couple more theories of elitism. And it's all the same thing. There's a small group in charge. These just are different groups that people posit for the theory. So C. Wright Mills, he thinks, yes, there's elitism going on, but the groups aren't the wealthy, educated, or the upper class. They are the corporations or big businesses, the military and government officials working together to dominate the power and make decisions. Those are those 3 groups, corporations, military, and government officials, are called the Iron Triangles. Nowadays, many would include media chiefs and labor officials because they have a lot of influence and power too. So there's these groups or people that have huge power and huge influence, and he feels, Wright Mills, that they are the ones pushing things and ruling. And then there's Max Weber. He has a bureaucratic view of elitism. He says that the small group is the bureaucracies in government. Government's in the hands of a small group of bureaucracies or civil servants who translate law into policy. So the people that are in charge of carrying out our laws, the IRS, the DMV, the FBI, all these different bureaucracies, they are the ones that actually have the power, and they're the ones that are ruling. They translate law into policy. If you remember from yesterday, law is that rule of conduct or standard of behavior that's established by an authority, but policy is the adopted course of action of how that is carried out. And he feels that, yeah, the bureaucracies don't make the laws, but they carry them out, and that means that they're the ones in power and they're the ones really ruling. So elitism. And then a more modern theory is pluralism. That there's not just one group in charge and ruling, but there's tons of groups that vie for power, that they make decisions happen by bargaining and compromise. And by small groups, I mean unions the parties, Democratic Party, Republican Party, car industries, labor industries, environmental groups, all these different groups are vying for what they want done, and they bargain, they compromise, and that's how we get our laws and our rules. And that means that they're the ones in power, and they're the ones ruling. No one group dominates. The one problem that people felt with this one was, yeah, that sounds great, and it doesn't seem like there's any one person in charge and people get their say. But a lot of times when you look at all the different groups, the poor are never really represented. There's no like homeless activist group lobbying on Capitol Hill to get stuff done. So they feel that that's not fair. Or another problem is, especially today or nowadays, there's this thing called hyperpluralism, and it's the idea that there are so many groups and so many interests, and everybody feels very strongly about what they want done and all the way things should work, that they're not willing to compromise or bargain, and so nothing ever gets done. So this is kind of like there is nobody ruling, there is no power, because nothing is getting done. Government is in a stall. So pluralism and hyperpluralism. So if you remember, our essential question was, who really rules the government in the US? And we have these theories: majoritarianism, elitism, pluralism, hyperpluralism, and you can see examples of all of them in our society. But many professors feel that you can't really just look at one to explain it all. You probably need all of them, or some that we haven't thought about yet, to explain the complexity of how government runs and who has the power and who's ruling. But you, for this unit, need to know those four theories: majoritarianism, elitism, pluralism, and hyperpluralism, and be able to see examples of them.